Good to go.
So we are live on the YouTubes.
Hello,
Anything you
YouTubes.
anything you say can and will be used against you by internet commenters.
No, Mark, they pretty much only crucify you. Me and Chris get a pass for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why that is.
That's because me and Seth is awesome. You know, I mean, come on.
Yeah. See, you can say me and Seth is. If I say me and Seth is, it's all over.
I did that on purpose, Mark.
I got an email just today, as a matter of fact, that I misquoted the name of the city in Seth's history link. I don't even remember now what it was, but apparently I did it wrong. So yeah, it's not Willamette, it's Willamette, according to a person who lives there. So he listens to the show and was enraged that I got the name of his city wrong.
But yeah, even though I'm the one who said it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're just going to pick this up, where it's going to be in the show. So if I refer back to something that hasn't happened yet, just go with it. Because by the time we get there, it will have happened.
It's a time machine thing.
Yes.
I get it.
Yes.
Yep.
Only we can't use that phrase because Apple has that copyright.
Damn it.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Except I'm now. So we're going to jump right into. I've already forgotten your name in the 30 seconds that I just looked it up. Alon, what is it?
I'm going to make you suffer. Feingold.
Feingold. There. Okay. See, it's so frustrating because I have no brain. That's why I put everything in the notes, because if I don't see it, it doesn't happen. Okay, one more time. And so here we are with Alon Feingold, the Grand Poobah. That's the title I'm going with. You can correct me later, but that's what I'm going with. The Grand Poobah of Plex. So let's get straight to it. Alon, who are you? What do you do? Why should we care?
Wow. Those are three very tough questions. Grand Poobah does sound good. Technically, I'm the CTO of Plex. Who am I? What were the other questions? What do I do, and why should you care?
Yes.
Well, what I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years is working on Plex. And why should you care? Because Plex is the most awesome thing to happen to your media since bacon happened to your food.
Wow. That should be on your press. That's good. I like that.
That is awesome.
So we have talked about Plex on this show a lot, which is why you're here. Chris discovered it, raved about it. I then decided to take a look at it and began to rave about it. And we thought we got to get these guys on the show because this thing is pretty amazing, and it's right in our wheelhouse. It's free/cheap. It's open source, and it's billions of hours of time wasting abilities. So tell us just in a nutshell, for those who haven't listened to the last several shows, what is Plex and what makes it so awesome?
Sure. So I mean, if I were to give you the elevator pitch, basically your media wherever you happen to be, whenever you want to see it. So what we try to do is any media you have at home, whether it's photos, or it's videos, whether it's music, audio, anything like that, we have this amazing magical server that indexes it, categorizes it, and makes it look amazing. It will download, posters for movies and just make it look amazing, and tag it, categorize it, do all that kind of stuff. And then once you have it all in there, you can send it pretty much anywhere you want, from a mobile device outside your home. You can sync content to a mobile device to take with you later. You can stream it to any one of our clients that exist for the big screen TVs. So it's pretty much a client service system. You can stream your media from your server to any of these apps that exist. For example, one of the most popular apps we have is on the Roku. You're probably familiar with the Roku, tiny little TV streaming box. Small, sexy, cheap, really nice. We have an app on there. It's one of the top used apps on that platform, actually. And you can use it to listen to your music, watch your photos, your videos. So it's pretty awesome.
And what I found first off about this thing was it's automagic. Things just happen. Like using the much maligned and accursed UPnP. It goes out and punches a hole in your firewall and connects up with your server, and then you log in to your server, and boom, there's all your stuff. How what are the little gnomes that make that happen?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that particular part because so there's a little bit of history here, so I can go a little bit deep into it, and you can cut me off and speed up. But basically, you would think that for one computer on your network at home to find another computer on your network at home would be brain dead simple. Just in terms of discovery, it's not. It might have been when everyone used Ethernet, but when everyone went to wireless, that got a lot harder because wireless Wi-Fi doesn't like to always be on. So it makes things a lot harder, which is why Apple now, in the latest iOS, they do discovery via Bluetooth a lot. Because Bluetooth is always there. They can use the low-energy Bluetooth to discover each other. So even just discovering devices inside the house, super hard. And we use a number of tricks. We use the general broadcast, multicast inside the house. We're going to get away with that. But we also use our web service, Plex.tv, which you can register an account on and sign your devices into. We actually send up some information about where your other resources are, and that allows them to communicate. So in certain cases, believe it or not, the easiest way for a device in one room to discover a device in another room is that both talk to a known third party and get information. So there's a lot of magic going on there. And that's the same thing that happens when you leave the home. The server will register up with the cloud and say, oh, by the way, you can access me outside the home through this connection. And so that's how it works. There's a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes, but of course the end goal is for it to be absolutely seamless and holy four-letter word, how did that work? It's amazing.
So it's kind of like the old Skype supernode, right? You've got, I can't connect to you directly, but there's somebody who knows where we both are, and I'll mitigate that. So once you do that, like if I'm talking from my phone to my server in my living room, that's not going over the internet. It's just making the introduction over the internet, and then Ethernet's doing the rest, right?
Correct. And right now we do only work with direct connections, so that we don't do a relay type thing where I believe the Skype supernodes actually relayed in certain cases, because there are certain cases in which NAT won't work, or certain corporate firewalls that block certain protocols, certain ports. So there's absolutely still cases where it can't work automatically yet, but we're working on adding some magic.
Yeah. So my first experience with you was again, Chris talked about you all the time, and so I'm a big media guy. I own over 300 DVDs. I'm big into that. I always buy my DVDs and then rip them rather than downloading somebody else, because then I have the thing. That's just my hang up. I like to have the thing instead of the promise that some server somewhere will always let me in to see my thing. So I had everything set up. I set up Plex. First off, I downloaded it and I thought this file is too small to do what it's supposed to do. It's the 30 meg or so file, and then I installed it, and it just went to work. It just did. And then I put the app, the free trial, I think it was, app on my phone, and I went to work. One of the most locked down networks you will ever find anywhere. And on my lunch break, I pulled out my phone and started watching Avatar from my server at my house, and thought that was the litmus test. I now know that you can break into the Kremlin if you need to, because you allowed me to do that.
We have some people inside the Kremlin, but they're generally mostly bored at this point.
Yeah, I can, again, I'll test this, that, I'm an old, I've been on a couple of times on record saying that I buy a lot of movies, and a lot of movies have been bought through Amazon or Google Cloud. And when I ran across your program, I was like, well, it can't do everything it's promising. But I had an extra box laying around. I figured, you know what? I'll try it. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. And I now am wishing that I could go suck the videos out of those other services and put them in my Plex box, because it does more for me than all those other services do. Just shocked.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot to us.
So you said you've been doing this, I think you said 7 years. How old is the project itself?
The project itself is about that old, because that's I'm one of the couple of people that kicked it off and started it. And for a couple of years, it was just a nights and weekends sort of thing. We all had full-time jobs, and fast forward, 7 years later, and we have this amazing team of engineers that's located all over the planet. We literally have people on almost every continent and in a ton of different countries, and just all brought together by love of media so we have this amazing engineering team. We have a small little headquarters in California, in Los Gatos, and we're like a real company. Oh my God.
So the question that has to follow that is why? Were you trying to scratch your own itch? Did you see a hole in the market you wanted to exploit? Why did Plex come to be?
Yeah, and that, you nailed it, and that's I think why a lot of these things happen is people scratching their own itch. So for me, it was. I used to watch videos using Xbox Media Center on my ancient Xbox One back in the day. And that was about the time when we were switching over to getting higher definition video, and the higher definition video wouldn't play on the Xbox One. It didn't have enough horsepower. And I just got a Mac Mini, and wow, this is a pretty awesome little device. I love that hooked up to my TV. And so I wanted the Xbox Media Center to work on my Mac Mini. And at the time, their team was working on porting it to Linux. So I sort of hopped on that work and then worked on getting it to run on OS X. So that's how it kind of all started with that Media Center app.
Yeah, so I still use XBMC as my primary device, and Plex is just the server. Because you're still a little too mouse and keyboard centric to work on my TV with my remote. At least that was my experience with it. XBMC is better at that, but that's not the only thing it's better at. And they're, you may see them as a competitor. I see them as wonderful companion applications. You have XBMC on the big TV in the living room, and you have Plex everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you haven't tried our Plex in theater lately, we definitely. It's funny. I thought you were actually getting the other way on that. I thought you were going to say you guys don't support mouse and keyboard enough, because that's the complaint we hear a lot. But we're not into mouse and keyboard. We'd rather that it worked well with an Apple remote or a Harmony remote or one of those things. And as far as I know, out of the box, we should work really well with those remote controls at this point. And plus, we have the really cool remote control feature so that from any of your mobile clients you can connect to your Plex home theater running and link content, see where it's at, hold content local. So we have this really powerful, kind of like AirPlay, but much more powerful way of flinging media around from any mobile device. You can use that as like a full-fledged remote.
I haven't experimented with that. I did the 5-year-old test. I put Plex on the machine and gave the remote to my 5-year-old and said, "Okay, go play Barbie, Disney, whatever." And she couldn't make it work. With XBMC, she can. So I didn't really put any more effort into it than that. But again, that's not in any way intended to be denigrating. I think you guys are what you do is pretty amazing. Just in my situation, it's not quite yet up to being the central piece. And maybe I haven't tried what you're talking home theater thing. I just installed the app, the server app, and went. Maybe there's something else I need to do.
Yeah. If you get a chance to check out Plex Home Theater, it's another download site, and it's essentially it's a fork of XBMC. So it's the same, it's very similar bases. We keep it up to date. So it should have all of that functionality built in. And if you have any issues with it at all, please let me know.
Does it
work
on the Pi?
Get you in touch with them. I'm sorry.
Does it work on the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah. In fact, we have a couple of people who are working super hard on getting it to run on the Pi, and you can watch some videos on YouTube. We have a forum section on our forums for the Raspberry Pi. I think it's called Rasplex is the name of the port to the Pi.
I thought,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Rasplex is a client, right, not a server, because you couldn't do what the server does. We haven't even talked about that. So what does the server do? I talked about the automagicness of it. I'm in Fort Knox watching my movies, but there's a lot of math going on in the background. Talk a little bit about what the Plex server actually does to make all that happen.
Sure. So one of the main things it does is it has to scan all your media that you want to manage with it into the system. So that's the first part. The second part is where the magic kind of starts, and that's the metadata aspect of it, which is downloading all the posters and theme music for TV shows and TV banners and all that kind of good stuff. And for that, we use a bunch of agents that are in the cloud and a bunch of high-falutin cloud solutions that manage that. And one of the really cool aspects that we have there is we have this feedback mechanism where if we ever get something wrong, if we ever mismatch something, so if you had Barbie's princess movie and it mismatches it Barbie Castle movie or something, and you can correct that. As you've seen, if you get anything wrong, you can awesomely easily correct it. And that feedback gets sent back to our cloud services. So we process all of the corrections so that next time we don't make that same mistake. So it's kind of like a learning system up in the cloud that learns from its mistakes. And that's what imbues your media with the amazing and beautiful pictures and summaries and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So that's step number 2.
There's a movie, let me pause right there. There's a movie that you didn't get right, but it's okay. Nobody has ever got it right. It's called Felicity and American Girl. It's the American Girl dolls that have companion movies. You don't have daughters. You don't know what I'm talking about. I can tell by the blank expression on your face.
Do not know what you're
Anybody with daughters knows exactly what we're talking about. You can pay $7,000 for this doll, and it comes with this 30-minute video that goes with it. Awesome. Well, we have a couple of the videos, and I saved it just as Felicity. I didn't do Felicity, and American Girl Adventure. I just did Felicity. And the cover art that I got was some 70s soft porn with some chick with pigtails nibbling suggestively on a candy bar. And I thought, that's not it. But again, like I said, it's not you that got it wrong. Everybody gets it wrong. The moviedatabase.org, everybody gets it wrong. So I finally figured out the correct way to name the file to get it to show up right. And that seems to be the secret. If you name your file right, you get things right.
Yeah. Naming is definitely part of it. Go ahead, Chris.
Honestly, I noticed that too, especially when I have a whole bunch of them today. Like the Dora the Explorer movies, the ones that come with a whole bunch of different episodes. I have one of them that spans 5 different seasons. So they cherry picked one video from each season and put it on the same disc. And unless I didn't know about the TV DB that you guys use right away, it totally indexed the whole thing wrong. But then I started reading in the forum on the correct way to name episodal shows like that, and it was like, and then I found the TV DB agent. I went, well, what's that? Went and found out what that is, which gave me the seasons that they all go to. And so now it's pulling the correct cover art, the correct everything, and it was just like auto-magically, like Mark was saying. It just blew me away when I figured out that it did that. The other thing that blew me away about Plex, Mark, I don't know if you've run into this yet, but like my Lord of the Rings copy is the extended DVD version. So each movie is 2 discs long. I didn't know Plex could span the file. Until I went down this path with the Dora movie, and I found that if you named it correctly, it ended up being able to span the movie. And when I tested it, it worked. I didn't even realize it changed file when I tested it.
So you mean they took a 10-hour movie and made it longer?
Yes. But yeah, what really, like I said, it surprised me though, the fact that it could hand off from one disc, from disc 1 to disc 2 without a break.
And historically, the reason why we handle that so smoothly, why we have to, is if you remember back in the day, a lot of times when you were archiving your home movies, you get them to fit on one CD, and sometimes you couldn't fit them on one CD, so you'd fit them on 2, and there was the CD1 and the CD2. So that kind of multi-part, multi-disc handling, kind of stems from that era, but works now too for bigger, longer, and Lord of the Rings movies.
That's awesome.
I have 2 TV series. I have The Tick because, well, The Tick is awesome, and it was the same thing. I had learned with the XBMC days to name it Tick SE1 S1E1 for season 1, episode 1, and I dropped those into to Plex. And by the way, the way I did it, I'm using my primary media center is XBMC running on the Raspberry Pi, RaspBMC, and I'm sharing it with UPnP. So I just pointed Plex at that magical UPnP share, and it said, "Oh, here's your library." Boom. And it had to do a lot of re-indexing. It would be nice if you guys could share the same media instead of having to do that twice, because I'm being picky now. But yeah, I'm picky about this.
Try Rasplex. That uses the same centralized server, so there's no need to re-index. Basically, indexing on a Raspberry Pi is pretty slow anyway. So use Rasplex and slam it in, it'll just work right out of the box and tastes great. Less filling.
As I was saying before the show, your Plex killed my hard drive, and I blame you for that, because it did all that indexing and started pulling things down, and this drive that was already weak, it pushed it over the edge. It was sort of like a 60-year-old man with a heart condition meeting up with a 20-year-old nymphomaniac. I'm totally with the wrong way with that there.
I'm not even sure where Plex fits into that metaphor.
Plex
public service announcement
can handle.
Public service announcement. Plex does make your hard drive occasionally. It does expect your video card to draw a couple pixels every now and then. It does very have hard expectations.
So it's a good weak drive detector. I've discovered.
Yes, we actually marketed it as such.
So I've also noticed in my experiences that you now we haven't even talked about the transcode. I interrupted you there, but you transcode on the fly, and it seems to me, based on my experiences, that you just suck up whatever CPU cycles you can get based on whatever it is, because it doesn't seem to matter what machine I put it on. You peg the CPU all the time, everywhere. Is that by design or just the fact that transcoding is hard?
Well, both actually. So generally speaking, when you want to play a video from the Plex server on one of your devices, one of three things can happen. Number one, if it's like an MP4 file, for example, which is super compatible and played directly on the client, Plex server actually just acts like an HTTP server. So it serves it up zero CPU needed. So if you have all your media in an incredibly compatible format, that's great. But as we all know, there's other formats besides MP4. And also, you might be on a cell phone, and your MP4 is like an 8 gig MP4, and you're trying to stream over 1 megabit LTE link. You need to transcode that too. So that's the first thing that can happen, is that it's played and streamed directly. The second thing that can happen is what we call direct streaming, where it just has to remux. So the file might be an MKV file, for example, with H.264 video inside it, and that H.264 video we can essentially copy over right to a format that, for example, an iPhone or Android device understands. And the third, and that's very cheap. That's incredibly cheap. The third most expensive thing is the transcode. So we have to decompress the video, resize it down, compress it again, and that's incredibly expensive. But so you talked about the CPU pegging part. We do something clever where we keep this. Essentially, we transcode X amount of seconds ahead. So as fast as we can, we try to get you 10 or 20 seconds transcoded so that your player can buffer it. And then as you consume it, we actually go idle. So if you watch the CPU carefully, we'll use your CPU heavily, get ahead, and then idle out. And then wait until you consume it, and then build some more bits, and then idle out again. That sounds like I'm nitpicking, but it's the reason that you can actually get a ton of simultaneous streams transcoding on fairly inexpensive hardware. We've had people that have done 5-10 streams transcoded just on a standard i7 chip. And they've kind of maxed out all the devices across their own network, and it's pretty amazing. It can sustain like quite a few transcodes at once.
Yeah, and my experience is that first thing that you mentioned. I'm going over a lower bandwidth connection than because all my files they are MP4s, but they're all very high quality, and going over even my house's Wi-Fi. If you get two streams going at once, it starts to crumble a little bit, and so Plex recognizes that, sees the buffering or something. I don't know. Again, magic happens. Things happen in the background, and it starts transcoding appropriately. Every now and then, like when I'm streaming over LTE, I'll have to pause the video and drop it down a level and say, give me 720K instead of 8 gigs or 8 megs or whatever, and it just does it, and that's what amazes me. I love things that just work, and Plex just works.
Thanks so much.
I've noticed that I have trouble resuming a video. So if I'm 10 minutes in and I pause it and I go back and try to pick up at 10 minutes, it seems to take it 10 minutes to get back to that 10 minutes. Is that a common experience?
No, that definitely shouldn't be the case. What device are you on? What device are you on?
Yeah, when I'm going to my Android phone, that's not in the house. None of this on the local is an issue. But when it's doing the transcoding, when I'm working outdoors and streaming to my phone, that's when I see that.
What model of phone?
It's a Nexus 5.
Nexus 5. Okay, I'm trying to think. With Android, we do have. It seems like for whatever reason, the video playback is the most different across. Of all characteristics, you're running the same OS version on different Android phones from different manufacturers, and they have slightly different ways to handle video. So we have run into things in the past where certain things, believe it or not, resuming video is actually one of the things that a lot of manufacturers get wrong, and they run into problems with. And a lot of times we actually have to start the video at zero, wait until it starts playing, and then seek to where you really want it to go, because they don't have a native way of resuming. So some of the slowdown that you're seeing might be something like that. Like it's dropping back. It knows that it's a device that can handle the native resume, and it's dropping back to this more emulated resume. Or it could be a known issue with the Nexus 5. I'm not familiar with it, but it's possible. But that it should never be the case. It should resume really quickly.
Understand at this point, I'm complaining that the supermodel has a hangnail. I mean, this is.
I would complain about that too. Hangnails really annoy me.
So so what else do we? What else do you do? So you index and cross-reference and do all that. You transcode. What else does Plex do that we haven't mentioned?
Channels.
Yeah, I can spend all day talking about it. We also support online content, so we have a plug-in system for channels which are open source and can easily be written in a couple dozen lines of Python code if you're so inclined. So we have a ton of plugins for all sorts of different websites that give you access to online media like CNET, TED Talks, Vimeo, that kind of thing. And we use that same technology to give you a bookmark if you're on a site that has a video on the page, you can hit your bookmark and it'll actually save it into a playlist that you can later watch on any of your devices. You can even recommend videos to friends and stuff like that. So and also that there's also an email service built in so that when your friend says, hey, check out this YouTube video, and you don't want to click on it right there, you can actually just forward the email onto your playlist, and it'll look for it, get the thumbnail, make it look pretty, and it'll be there when you sit down on your couch in front of your TV, you can see the video that your friend sent you. So that's the online portion of things.
You can also share servers with friends, which I'm not entirely sure is legal, but it's certainly very cool.
Well, absolutely. Honestly, we use it for sharing photos with our family, our parents, home videos, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not up to you what I share, right? You just make it.
Well, you can be scanning all sorts of content that's illegal to even have on your system. Microsoft and Western Digital don't want you storing that on their drives and using it on their operating system, but it's up to you to do the right thing, and we always hope that people use Plex in a responsible way.
And you mentioned earlier that you're cross-platform, Windows, Mac, Linux.
Don't forget FreeBSD.
Of course, FreeBSD. Solaris, anything else?
Not on Solaris currently, no. We've had a few requests, but we all run ZFS as our file system choice, but we're not on Solaris. And then, of course, we're on a bunch of the NAS devices too, which bear mentioning. They're all of them run Linux, so that kind of counts as Linux. But pretty much all of the major NAS devices that are out there, from Asus Tech and ReadyNAS and like Netgear, Synology. I mean, I'm spacing on them because there are so many, but we're at the Drobo 5N. We're on a lot of these NAS devices, and that's a popular choice for people who don't like to have a server computer always on. You just throw it on your NAS and kind of forget about it. So it's a really good place for it.
And so you make this cool software that does this amazing stuff, and you have the temerity, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to expect money for your work. So let's talk about how you get paid.
Yeah, we do like to occasionally feed our pets and feed our families. And it's really, to be honest, just to skip ahead, it's a dream come true for all of us to be able to work on this and have it be a full-time job. But so when you download the server is free and will always be free. And along with the server comes bundled this really cool web app that's basically like a web-based manager. You can manage all your stuff and you can play all your content too. So it's HTML5, JavaScript, so you can access your content from across the world in a web browser, stream videos, do all that kind of stuff. So all of that is completely free. What we charge for is the app, so the iOS app is $4.99, Android apps $4.99, this one apps $4.99, stuff like that. And then we also have the Plex Pass, which is kind of our premium subscription platform model. And if you have a Plex Pass, again, it starts at there's a really cheap monthly plan, there's a yearly plan, and then there's a lifetime plan for people who don't like recurring bills. But if you have a Plex Pass, you get access to other features. Like, for example, you get the ability to sync content. So you can now sync content to your Android, iOS, or Windows phone device and bring it with you on an airplane where you just don't have connectivity.
So syncing is essentially offline mode, right? So you tag set of videos and you download them offline.
Yep, and it's super smart. You can say stuff like, hey, The Simpsons, make sure I always have two unwatched episodes of The Simpsons. So it's really smart syncing, and when you get done watching those, it'll recycle over into new ones. So that's super cool. There's also a multi-user support is part of the premium package. So you can set up different accounts for all your friends and people at home and family, and they can have their own history and their own kind of view into the media. So that's also part of the package.
I want to talk about that for just a second. As I mentioned earlier, as a parent, I have because it knows all the great metadata. One of the things it knows is the MPAA ratings of these. So I have my kids set up with accounts that only show them the G and PG stuff. And they don't see my, John McClane blowing stuff up videos. It just doesn't appear on their systems, which is pretty amazing. Now, I trust my kids not to go down that path, but there's always the opportunity for them to give their tablet to somebody else who talks them into, here, let's watch The Dark Knight Rises. That sounds cool. And then my 5-year-old would have nightmares for a month. So using the Plex Pass, I set them up with an account, and I just only give them access to that particular collection of videos, and it's a great service.
Thanks. Yeah, we definitely parental controls. We talked about this earlier. I don't have kids yet, but eventually. But parental controls and basically making that system more powerful. It's one of the most requested features in our premium forums. When you get access to these premium forums, the premium forums include a place to vote on new features and suggest new features. And parental controls are one of the most important things on the top of the list that people have been asking for. And so we're definitely looking to enhance the functionality that you're talking about for the future, make it much friendlier to use and much more powerful also.
Yeah, and you didn't talk about how much it costs. The annual is $25. The monthly is
$29. Monthly is $3.99.
Yeah.
And then the lifetime is $74.99.
So I didn't even know about the forums and the voting and all. I paid for it because I like your service and I wanted to tip you. So I bought an annual subscription, but I'll probably end up making that a lifetime. Which would you prefer? You make more money if I keep it annually than if I go lifetime.
I guess technically, if you monthly and kept it going for the rest of your life, I'd make enough to buy a car or something. But I think generally what we find is that people are just looking to check the system out. They'll get a monthly for a couple months. But I think generally the next step is people generally they go for the lifetime just because it's the one-time value. Once they see all the things that Plex offers, and once they kind of see that we're a passionate little company that really cares about making the most amazing media system, and we keep pumping out new things and trying to get things to look better, and like we're just actively working on it. I think most people figure, well, I'll be around for a couple years, I'll just get the lifetime. But either of them help us out, and we absolutely appreciate it. And I'll take this opportunity on this podcast to just say thank you so much to everyone who's a Plex member. You honestly make it possible for us to be following our life's passion, because we're passionate about media, and we're a small band of developers, and it's because of you guys and your support that we can do what we love. So thank you.
So how small? How many people are on the team?
Right now, there's about, I'd say between actually 20 and 30 full-time people. Full-time engineers, and so we've been growing quite a bit, and we have people all the way from South Africa to Sweden to Scotland to just about every time zone in the U.S. So we hire the best people that we can find all over the world. So if you're an amazing software guy and you have a resume, feel free to send it our way too. Because we are hiring, and we love nothing gives us greater pleasure than hiring someone who's used Plex for years, loves it, knows about it, and also happens to be a kick-ass engineer. We've hired a number of those.
Well, we have a pretty good audience. You might end up getting maybe somebody who might look that way. I know for me,
I expect so.
The second I started playing with it and seeing how much features there was, I instantly hit the lifetime button. So you may not get a monthly from me, but you got a lifetime.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. I really am passionate about spreading this around. Mark said, I converted him basically from XBMC.
He nagged me for months, is what he did.
Conversion. Yeah, it all works.
It worked.
Like I was saying before pre-show. I got a buddy of mine who is running it in his house right now. He's going to buy a lifetime membership as soon as the budget allows him to, because of the features that he can say that his kids can only see these episodes of that rating level of the movies he's ripping. So there's another one, and I got a bunch of other people that are asking me how this works and how to get it to work even better. So far, everybody that has seen this has went, I want one. I really, really want one. So you might end up getting a few more coins in your own purse from people just from me referring. So keep on the good work. I really love this project. I really, really do.
So since you're already doing all that great transcoding stuff, why not make it RIP too? Why not make it the full package where I can pop a DVD in, you rip it, index it, and go from there?
That's actually a great question. We've kind of discussed it internally a bit, but in general, there's already software that does that really well, and so it's not actually something that we see requested a lot, to be honest.
See, that's always sort of been a dream of mine. I want a media center that also rips. So I buy a DVD for the first time. I put it in, and the first time I'm watching it, it's also ripping it and throwing it in my library. So I bring it home, I watch it, and now I have it there. Instead of having to do that extra step, often what I do is I rip it before we can watch it. So, when the Despicable Me 2 came out, I went and bought it because my kids love that movie, and they had to wait for me to rip it and transfer it to my system so that we could watch it. And the whole time I'm thinking, why can't my system be smart enough to just do this for me? So consider this a feature request.
No, it's a great question. We did absolutely discuss it as a way of just easing importing media into the library. It's definitely interesting. It definitely sort of completes the circle in a way. And I'll make a feature request.
Because I am a premium member, so I have that.
You are a premium member, so I'm also very careful not taking notes here.
Chris, Seth, any other questions? I kind of monopolize the interview like I always do.
Yeah, it's nothing new for you, Mark. The thing I would bring up is I'll definitely repoint people at the Roku app. My 5-year-old sat in front of the Roku app and went, "Oh, it's just like Netflix." And she went right through it, found everything that she wanted. And this is before I've actually configured her account, so she sees everything. But she went right down, found her Tinkerbell movie, and went beep, and started watching it. Didn't even blink. So if you're got little kids who can function a Netflix queue or whatever, and they're used to that type of model, the Roku app is perfect for them.
Is there any thought of bringing in things like Netflix and Amazon Prime to the fold so it is a unified media center?
We've gotten that request in the past, and when we first started out, we just had the native media center app. We actually had an official Netflix plugin on there for a while. But the thing is, currently, most of the places where we are, everywhere we are. For example, the Amazon Fire TV, where we have a really cool app, and the Roku, we have a really popular app. Netflix is already on both of those places, so it's not as important for us to try to integrate Netflix into our plugin too, because it's sitting right there wherever you already are.
So you're thinking just sort of stick with what you do well.
Yeah, I mean, we're focusing on local content and personal content. And a lot of the online content that we do support is more the long tail content. We don't because again everywhere where we're on, like TV app, we have an LG app for a while. We're on all these different places, and pretty much everywhere you look, there's already Netflix app, there's already Pandora app, there's already these apps. We wouldn't if people came talking to us and wanted to integrate their services, we'd absolutely talk to them. Just because of that fact that wherever Plex is, we have other services. There's not really a big win to pull it in.
Right. Speaking of other services and putting them in, I did notice. Now, I don't know if this is a Plex issue or if it's an issue with my friend's network. He's got a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4, and we're noticing huge issues getting the DLNA support working. Is that a known bug, or is that just his network? And there's also no apps in the PlayStation or Xbox stores. Is that something you guys are looking at fixing?
So to answer your first question, the DLNA again, it's back when I was discussing the magic of network discovery and how easy/hard it is. We see certain networks across which DLNA doesn't work. It just doesn't. Like there's some. Unfortunately, people go out and buy a bunch of routers, hook them up, and it kind of works, and they can reach the internet, which is the main thing. But in a lot of cases, they end up creating these incompatible local networks inside their house that are multiple local networks that can't talk to each other. So it doesn't seem broken because they can reach the internet from any of them. But in terms of interoperating and talking across those local networks, it just doesn't work. So that's the kind of the most likely scenario in this case is that there's something weird with the network that doesn't allow broadcast for them to discover it. If it's just not seeing it at all. The other scenario would be if he's running, say, for example, Windows server, and he has some sort of antivirus or firewall that's locking stuff down. But the most common case we see of DLNA apps aren't working is that it's a network-logical thing that we can't really do anything about.
I figured. And then, like my second question was, I know you have apps for Roku and Amazon Fire and things like that, but we didn't find it in his PlayStation stores. Is that because it's impossible to get one in there, or just because no one's asked for it?
Well, people ask for it. I mean, those stores are definitely much harder to get into and take work to get into and to write a new app. And so we're always looking to expand our footprint. We'd love to be everywhere, but there's just certain places that are trickier and harder than others. So, but every year we continue to add platforms, and every year you see us like on Fire TV. We were there from the get-go. So we're trying to be on more platforms.
We've beat you and battered you for half an hour now. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I always have the same question I ask everybody in interview. If somebody picks up this interview right now, and this next thing you say is the only thing they hear, what do you want to make sure that people know about Plex?
Go to their website, Plex.tv, check it out. It's an amazing thing. Any kind of media at home, videos, music, photos, it'll make your media awesome. And like I said at the very beginning, Plex is media like bacon is to food. It just makes everything better. So if you have media, if you like media, if you like watching movies, TV, audio, go check it out. Plex.tv.
The awesome is built right in.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, and thank you so much for being with us. We certainly appreciate it. And you're welcome back anytime.
Mark, Chris, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate your Plex evangelism and having me on and the friendly chat. And hopefully be back before too long.
Thanks.
Hey, is there any secrets that you want to let go? Maybe a little teaser of things to come for our audience, or is there anything that you can tease?
I can just tease and say there's a lot of really awesome stuff coming out. So
there you go.
Does that count?
More awesomeness.
There's some really cool stuff out that's coming along the line that coming out soon.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
I'll get your name right.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
And that's it. That's how we do a show.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us, man.
Well, at least for your part.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. Now we have another 6.5 hours to record. That's just the way.
Wow. Okay, so I'll stop recording GarageBand, and I need to do a couple things, but I'll process that into echo-free. Stop recording. Oh, you know what? That's bizarre.
Don't say that. Those are bad.
I don't know. Look, I have something here. I hope it recorded the whole thing. It looks like it may not have recorded all of it.
Well, just whatever you got, just throw it.
I don't know if I did a GarageBand thing where it thought my project was only 5 minutes long and then stopped after that. So I'll check.
Throw it in a Dropbox or whatever, and let me know. And thanks again.
Well, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Righty, then I need to reset my hardware, so give me a second.
Yep. That's fine. I'm getting my next DVDs ready for ripping, so.
I haven't had to turn it off and back on in a while. For some reason it did. Oh, nice. And my backup recording stopped somewhere along the line. So I hope his is good, because mine isn't.
Uh-oh.
Man.
Let's see. Let me do a quick check on this audio.
Thanks again. Thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so that's
Sounds like it's there.
Yeah. Well, that's my primary recording. Just my backup that wasn't working. So, as long as I don't lose my primary, we're fine. Let me go ahead and save that.
That never happens.
Yeah, we don't need a lost episode.
Okay, cool. And thanks to the wonders of SSD, saved just like that.
Gotta love SSDs.
Okay, so we don't have an ad this week. So we'll do, and I don't have any listener feedback. We've got a lot, but I knew this was going to go wrong. Was going to go long. That was 45 minutes, and so we'll do the warm up. We'll do the news, and then close out the show.
Sure.
So it won't be a big deal.
Hey, Chris, is that link from last week?
It is, but there was some news that I wasn't able to give up from last week, and so I'm going to give up the big secret as far as the first when you hit the page, that is the big secret the reason I wanted to prep last week's show for this week, because I knew I'd be able to actually talk about it this week.
Cool.
All right.
And I know some of our people aren't going to care, but it's near and dear to my heart, so it's going up.
So that makes it count. That is Chris's link. It can be whatever you want.
That's right.
All right. Let's we'll do this. Part 2. Part 1. Take 2. Something like that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 147, Plex, recorded June 8th, 2014, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. This week we have a guest with us, Mr. Ilan Feingold, who is the CTO, Grand Poobah, Grand Wizard something of Plex. And we recorded that audio a little earlier, and I'm going to slip it into the show seamlessly. And if I hadn't mentioned it here, you wouldn't know the difference. But hey, I'm all about transparency. So now you know the man behind the curtain. But who is not going to stay behind the curtain are, of course, my stalwart co-hosts, Mr. Chris Neves, the Command Line Godfather, and Mr. Seth Anderson, the GUI Kid. Hi, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Howdy, folks.
Howdy, folks. All right. So in case you wondered, Seth is from Texas.
Yeah, I almost launched into the whole big text thing, and actually I didn't know if you were going to say anything about it. So,
Big Tex, if you don't know what that is, he's a giant, 50-foot cowboy at the state fair who burned up last year.
And they replaced him with a creepy, demonic, possessed-looking guy. The new Big Tex looks kind of creepy. Everybody thinks that. So
he stood for 80 years, something, long time, and somehow nobody's really sure, or at least they're not reporting it. Somehow managed to catch fire. And what do you do when a 50-foot cowboy catches fire? Nothing. You stand and watch.
You let it burn.
Yes.
You let it burn.
Yeah, I think I think it was like an electrical short or something in there. And of course, it was basically steel infrastructure with just canvas covering it. So it didn't burn that long, if I remember correctly. That's been a while, and I've played too many, stupid games on my computer to remember much.
Yeah, well, it was a big deal every year. He got a new pair of pants, a new pair of jeans, and they were real jeans that usually Justin or somebody like that. It was somebody would pay or donate the clothes to get their name in there. So he's worn Levi's over the years, and he had the big Thrush Popper shirt, and they were real clothes, and it was always a thing. Big Tex is sporting a size 4,395 set of jeans.
Right.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's
cool
what he
way
said.
That's a cool way of doing an advertisement too.
Yeah.
You can say that Big Tex is wearing my jeans. So
yeah, he had a recorded loop he'd play. Howdy, folks! Welcome to the Great State Fair of Texas. So that's why Seth alluded to that. So that little inside baseball there. Just a quick note I wanted to follow up on last week's show. I had one of those situations where I lost my primary recording and my backup recording, and had to resort to the Google Plus Hangout recording. So that's why the last 12 minutes or so of last week's show sounded like we were talking through pillows. And audio quality is something I'm a stickler about, and it's something that you in the audience comment on frequently. I just wanted you to know that it was an aberration. It's not, I knew it was there. It wasn't an accident, but it was the best I could do with what I had. So that's why I make copies of copies of copies. I have backups everywhere. And I just did a boneheaded thing. I unplugged the recorder before unplugged the power before I click save. That's a stupid thing to do. And so my backup went away. My primary went away because it's running on a crappy old laptop, and it happens almost every other week. So there we go. Now's a good time to direct you to the tip jar at elementalweek.com. And I want to, along those lines, after last week's discussions and after more than one request from listeners, we have a Patreon page now.
Cool.
We talked about that last week. Kevin, I believe was his name, wrote in and said, hey, we would you do this? And I talked about how I didn't really see the value in it, and I thought, why not? I'll do it. So it's a little extra effort on my part, just a little. I have to paste a link in there every week to let them know we have a new show up. And so the way it works is you give a certain amount, you pledge a certain amount per episode. Now, if you go to the site right now, the default is $2, but you can change that to 2 cents if you want. So you set the amount, and Patreon charges your credit card once a month. So you can, in your account, you can say, I want to spend no more than $8 a month. And then you can pledge $100 a month to every podcast you like. And Patreon will say, well, you've said you only want $8 a month maximum, and it'll figure out how to make that happen. So you can pledge whatever you want per episode or per month. You choose that. Like I choose how you want to pay it. So I set mine up to be per episode. I could do per month. I could do per week. It could just be a standard subscription. I chose to do per episode because maybe we won't do 4 episodes in a month. Maybe we'll take 6 weeks off like we did a couple of years ago. It just, however it works. I decided to go with per episode, but you're billed per month, and because I got some feedback about that I had misrepresented that it wasn't per episode. It's both per episode and per month. So I get to set how I want to charge you, but in the end, Patreon bills your credit card once a month for whatever you set. So there's some goals a la Kickstarter. If we get to $500 per episode, I'll upgrade not only my studio, but Chris's and Seth's as well with high quality video and audio, and even buy the bandwidth.
Sweet.
If we get up to $2,500 per episode, I will quit my job and work full time for you. Neither of those are ever going to happen, but hey, that's why they're called stretch goals.
There you go. Milestone goals.
Yes. So that's
it'd be cool to get to at least the 500 per episode, so we can do high definition.
Yeah, and then you'd be able to see this mole on my forehead up close and personal. That'd be great. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that.
I was thinking more high definition audio, because then we'd have better mics, better video for us to look at each other, but the audio quality of the show would take a dramatic step up.
Yeah, as with the file size, so I'd hear about that.
Yep.
I'm sure. But it's there if you want to use it. Again, as I mentioned last week, I really hate begging, but I also don't want to limit you. If Patreon is the way you like to do things, by golly, we've got a Patreon page now. If you'd rather, I had another commenter say that the tip jar on our website had the Tightwad Tech on it, which was when I first set it up a long time ago. It was the only show we did, so it said that, and he didn't want to donate because if that was wrong, what else might be wrong? So I went and updated that. I don't want to be a barrier to you giving me money. I will take away whatever barriers I have to for you to give me money.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome that we now have extra a few other ways of getting to allow our listeners and the Element to Opie people to if they want ways to donate, they have immense ways to donate now. That's awesome. And
I have done in the past more than one show a week. I would like to return to doing more than one show a week, and money will help make that happen. So that's the facts. If I didn't have to work outside of this job, I could put 50 hours a week into podcasting, and I would. That'd be awesome. I would enjoy that. And if I could offer Chris and Seth some scratch, they would do the same. I'd be able to hire real hosts, people with actual who know stuff. We could do a news show with actual reporters. There are all kinds of options that money, as coarse and as gauche as that is, money makes stuff happen. And again, if you never have given me a penny, I'm fine with that. But if you want to see more things happen, money is how more things happen. And I did get a couple. We're not going to do any listener feedback this week. I'm going to save it and next week for Father's Day, so that we don't have to do any work. We're just going to do a listener feedback show, and I'll compile it all there. We'll read them and discuss. But I got a number of things saying that last week's show has shamed people into giving money to other projects and to me. Again, that was not my goal, but I certainly don't mind if you were shamed into giving me money.
Well, I think it's good that they were shamed into giving projects money that they've been using.
Yes.
So I don't have a problem with that one, because I've been giving money, so everyone else should.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't a shaming, but it was more of an awakening and eye-opening. Because, if you're shamed into doing something, you'll resent it. But if you have your eyes opened, you resent that, but then you see that it's better with your eyes open. So hopefully, hopefully. That's because I would say you shamed me into it whenever really what I meant was I didn't realize I was a complete and pompous bleep before you pointed it out. Yeah. So thank you for making me aware.
As I mentioned last week, I want to reiterate, last week I was preaching at myself. During the course of the show, I realized what a putz I am. So it wasn't that I started the show to bash people over the head. It was I started the show as a discussion, and during the course of this discussion, I realized that I was a freeloading leech, and that's not okay. And I think a few other people had the same realization as I did during the show, realizing that they were freeloading leeches. And okay.
Now that we don't have any more freeloading leeches around, pertinent to the show today, I've been spending the last week and a half helping my buddy get his Plex server up and running, and a few other people that I know getting their Plex servers up and running. So it's becoming a large inertia push type thing around here, because people are seeing Plex and they're going, well, why am I doing that? That's their old way. Yeah. This is so much easier. So yeah, we'll talk more about Plex further on in the show, but if you haven't looked at them, take a look. It's worth it.
I've decided, as a result of the interview that hasn't happened yet that we already did, that I'm probably going to buy a NAS just for play. It never occurred to me. I mean, I had read some foreign stuff about that, but then I just thought, well, that's brilliant. Just a standalone device that is both server and platform. So, and I know I can build one for nothing. I can probably buy one for less than nothing. It's amazing how cheap NASs are these days.
Yeah, I would say you would probably want to buy the NAS because it would run cheaper, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you could build one cheaper, but it would be designed, it would just strip down OS that's not doing everything a regular computer is, and so, you're not going to be wasting all those watts keeping it going.
Yeah. See, like when I was looking into doing it, and I'm probably end up going to pull the trigger on it eventually here shortly. I'm going to end up going with the Drobo with the cache drive SSD underneath it. I think it's the Drobo 5S or something.
Drobos are awesome, but they're expensive.
But you're paying for that premium device, and so, but they have a native app for Plex. So probably down the road, that's where I'm going to end up going. But right now, honest to God, honest to the spaghetti monster, whatever you want to say, my little rig, my gaming rig, even when I'm gaming, my kids stream off of it, and I don't even feel it. Yeah. So it's pretty lightweight, even if, there were 3 people streaming, and I was pulling a 80 frame second game, I was still doing pretty good. So definitely.
The machine I have
them to sponsor us.
Yeah, that would be great. Instead, we're sponsoring them. The machine I have it running on is it's the AMD version of the Core 2 Duo. It was before the i series. It's that generation. I forget what the processor is.
Is that the Turon 2, I believe?
Sure. And it transcodes, again, the hard drive gets thrashed a lot as it's sucking down stuff, but it transcodes just fine. It serves out. My problem is the bandwidth out more than anything else. If I want to stream outside the house, streaming inside the house is just amazing. So my kids have the little 7-inch Android tablets, and they've always had room for a couple of movies. So they'll watch a couple of movies, and then they'll, decide they want to swap them out, and so I'll put a couple of other movies on. And once I introduced the Plex app to them, they realized they had access to our entire catalog of movies. It was pretty amazing. And as we'll talk about later in the thing that hasn't happened yet, the ability to sync some. They can just tag some automatically and say,
Yep.
We're going on a trip next week. I want to be able to watch this in the car. It just happens. So anyway, we're polluting the interview, and we'll get to that in a bit. But so for now, we're going to move right on to the tech news of the week that Seth so studiously curates. Microsoft wants to be on the Enterprise, not in the Enterprise.
Yes, it's actually pretty cool. They are, they purchased Skype a while back, and we've lamented the fact that, Skype seems to be going downhill. But one thing they can do is they've integrated, and they haven't released it yet with all the languages, but real-time translation. So I'm speaking some reasonable facsimile of English, and I could talk to someone in Germany who is speaking German, and I'm speaking and he's hearing. It's not like I'm speaking, it's thinking, it's translating, it's speaking. It's like near real time. And some people have said, well, that translation isn't perfect. Well, okay, it's not perfect.
It's functional.
Yeah. It's functional, and it will only get better. Microsoft, they release something that is less than stellar, and then they tweak it, and they use their release pool as their beta testers. And so I'm thinking it's kind of cool now, but it's the universal translator from Star Trek. We might have the universal translator in Skype. Talk about breaking down barriers of communication. With the free service now, you can communicate with somebody from another culture in who speaks a language you don't know, and he doesn't know yours, but yet you'll be able to have a conversation. Again, it's a little buggy now, but it's here.
Yeah,
it's going to get better.
Well, it's not released yet. They did a demo of it,
right?
And they're saying it's going to release sometime in 2014. So they got 5 months.
Right.
And it will be available first on Windows 8. They have not said that it's free. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I expect it to be free, but that's totally something worth paying for. If you're a businessman who does business in, with Japanese companies, and you're based in Detroit, that's something you pay for, and you don't think twice about it. Now you probably don't want to do a contract negotiation over that, because an improper translation can really screw things up. But it's it's a huge step forward in breaking down communication barriers. And I this is the sort of thing that's been predicted for years. The futurists have been saying for years that this is going to happen, and it's finally beginning to be here. And I remember AT&T in those. You remember that series of videos they did a long time ago with Tom Selleck, where have you ever something you will. One of the things that they talked about in those, I remember, was the operator, a digital operator translating phone calls on the fly. Well, it turns out it wasn't AT&T that did it, but Microsoft through Skype. So cool. This is a thing that has needed to happen for a long time. And like you said, Seth, it's only going to get better. We're in the infancy of it right now. It's not even born yet. When it grows up, it really will be the Star Trek Universal Translator. You'll go to any planet, anywhere, and they'll all speak perfect English.
Right, and they won't need a Babelfish to do it. So it'll be Skype.
Oh, have you started reading the book? You know of the Babelfish.
I finished the first two.
Awesome.
And I'm on to the third one. So I didn't binge read in one night. I started actually last week, and
so you're now a really cool fruit who knows where his towel is.
Yes, I have one in my car, actually, in my backpack. So just in case, which I had before the book, so I didn't realize how prepared I was.
Awesome. That's it's my favorite 5-book trilogy. Moving on to the next one that Seth said we had to do no matter what. Finally, the desktop computer is dead.
Yes, as much as no, the desktop computer is truly dead. They actually have a prototype, and what they've done is instead of having this machine that sits on top of your desk, what they have done is they've placed it inside your desk. And so it is now your computer with a monitor. It's your desk with a monitor attached.
Yeah.
You open, you raise the thing, and instead of a place to put your pencils and your paper and stuff like in school, there's a place for motherboard, expansion cards, hard drive, power supplies, things like that. So the desktop computer is being replaced with the desk computer. The desktop is dead. Long live the desk.
Years ago, a former student of mine built one of these out of wood and plexiglass, and he had all the components on there. He had neon lights and fans with little streamers on them so you could see the airflow, and it was a showpiece. But it was also a fully functional desk with his gaming rig inside it. Just throw a monitor on top of it, and you're good to go. And we laughed at him and thought it was cool at the same time. It was this is a really neat thing that you're doing, but you're kind of an uber geek for doing it. But now this company thinks they can make money selling them.
And I think they're just selling the desks, and the desks aren't that highly priced. The one that the numbers they're quoting here at the end of the article, is $1,000 to $1,200 for this type of a desk with no components. That's not that far-fetched for a high-end desk. So I would probably look into getting one.
And then another $1,000 on the computer inside it, which you were going to pay anyway for the computer.
Yeah.
Right.
Or more.
Right.
I don't want to go into how much I spent on mine.
I'm sure your wife wishes you hadn't gone into how much you spent on yours.
Well, it wasn't household money, let's put it that way. We have a line.
If you have something like this, when it comes time to replace, you don't have to replace the power supply because you're still going to have the power supply. You can recycle the hard drive. You're just swapping out the motherboard. So, again, is there going to be a big market for this? No, because people refuse to have something. Oh, it's not a tablet? I don't want it then because, ew, icky. But, for an enterprise, a school, or something, I just think it's really cool. Why wasn't this mainstream before? It's not like this is any new technology that they've come up with. It's just, somebody is, and I don't know, maybe that people have done this before, but somebody's getting some press on geek.com about it.
All right, and the next up in the list, Facebook wants to go one step further in invading your privacy by doing what Motorola's been doing for a couple of years now.
Yes, and this is, I love to bash Facebook. I don't like to just go moo, but this is something you have to opt into. I don't want to just slam them, but you opt in, and then what it does when you're in Facebook, it turns on your microphone and it listens. And so, like, if you're listening to a song on the radio or something, it will post, Seth is listening to whatever song I'm happening to be listening to, and and it'll post it. But again, it's an opt-in thing, which means it's opt-in this month, opt-out next month. New feature you can't change after that, which is Facebook's MO throughout history. But for right now, it is opt-in, and it is not available to everyone. Facebook wants the ability to control your microphone so that they can listen to what you're doing. And of course, they've said, we don't store the music. We only store like the file. It can't be converted, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how that works out. But it's kind of creepy.
You didn't mention this is only in smartphones. It's not a desktop feature. So
it is for the mobile app. So if you don't have the mobile app on a tablet, let's say, and you just access Facebook via the web, it wouldn't be available. It's only through their mobile app.
So Motorola, the Moto X phone, has this feature, a subset of this feature already. There's a separate hardware chipset that is always on and always listening. You can do the integration with Google now, things like that. My Nexus S and other phone, or excuse me, Nexus 5 and other phones that have that feature, if you've got Google Now on it and you're on a home screen with the Google Now, it's listening to everything I say. So right now my phone is listening, and if I say, okay, Google, it's going to activate. So Facebook is wanting to do what other people are already doing, but because they're Facebook, people will have a bigger problem with it, I think.
Yeah, I probably, but yeah, I just, I don't like the world that takes us one step closer to.
I totally like the world because I want the Star Trek interface. I want to be able to say computer and in any normal language phrase what I want. I want this to happen. Do I trust Facebook? No, I don't even run their app anyway. So this isn't a big deal to me, but I want the technology to proceed. And with a billion regular users, if a small fraction of them start using this, Facebook can gather lots of data and advance this technology forward. So I, for one, am excited about the potential of it, though I don't necessarily trust the bringers of it as much as I trust, for example, Google. Why do I trust Google more than Facebook? They have a better track record of not being jerks than Facebook.
True. I think it's kind of a creepy thing, but I do. I want my personally. I would love to have my Google Now better than what I have, than what it is now. But would I trust Facebook or allow Facebook to do what Google Now does? No. Personally, I wouldn't. And I think here probably in the next I don't know how long. What do you think? We got 30 minutes into the show. Or so. I have a feeling that all the Facebook apps are going to be removed from my phone because I don't want any of this to even slip into my phone.
Yeah, but like I say, it's you have to opt in now, and it isn't even rolled out to everyone. I don't think yet.
Like you said, it's opt in now. It'll be automatic later, and then it's always on permanently. Down a little bit further down the road. I don't want and their app isn't all that great to start with. So,
right. Yeah, that is true. Their app is. It sucks. I mean, well, I got to say though, their Windows app is not too bad, but yeah, their Android app, I on my tablet, I don't use that thing because it's disgusting. I pull up my web browser and I sign in that way.
So, my wife uses the app on her phone and has noticed that it's a battery drain. We both did. And so she will go to Facebook, look up what she needs to do, post what she needs to post, whatever, then go into her settings and manually kill the app. And I keep telling her, just use the web page. It's even less work than what you're doing right now. But she says there are things that you can't do, and I'm not heavily into Facebook, so I don't doubt that she's right. There are things on the web page that you can't do on the app, and like tag albums and things like that. Those things I don't do anyway. But it cracks me up that a woman who is not technically savvy at all has had to teach herself how to navigate the Android menu system to manually hard kill an app because their app sucks so much on Android.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I gotta say, on a phone, you can't really do the web version on the phone. It's just too small because you have your Facebook down the middle. You have this is what Facebook wants to tell you on the left, and then you have the abbreviated Facebook on the right of everything that's in the middle. So basically,
I don't have that experience at all. And I mean, I've got it up right now using Chrome on my phone, and it's a nice streamlined thing. I like it. Yeah.
I haven't tried the web
version. Now, not the mobile app, mobile.facebook.com, not facebook.com, m.facebook.com. So
I will have to give it another try. It's been a while since I've done that.
And a few years ago, I would have said Facebook, schmacebook. I want to know, why is adding schma to anything immediately dismiss it? I don't know.
It just works out that way.
But that's where people are. So that's where you have to do Facebook because people do Facebook. So they've sucked me in. Okay, moving right along to things that are going to suck you. No, I got nothing. Google is wanting to spread the bandwidth. Again, they've often said that when more people use the web, more often they win, and they're putting their money where their mouth is to the tune of $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, just think about that. If you or I could never hope to do $1 billion, but for them, that's like, so
that's last quarter's profits to them.
That's not the sad
or
part
less.
Is that's not even profits. That's last week's profits probably. But yeah, so they are looking to launch $1 billion worth of satellites. I think 18 satellites is what, and they want to. No, I'm sorry, 180 small, high capacity satellites that'll be in lower orbits than traditional satellites. They want to bring bandwidth to the world. And the great thing about satellite is you can be out in the middle of nowhere and access it. But again, one of the things with current satellite technology is the latency involved and then the data caps. I would think that Facebook would probably say, we're not going to worry about the data caps, or at least make it more reasonable.
You mean Google?
Yeah,
said
currently,
Facebook.
I'm sorry. I must be having an aneurysm. Google, I don't think they would care about the caps, which currently, if you exceed your daily cap, they knock you down to something like 56K for the next day or something. But if you don't use it all, you don't get to carry over. Anyway, I would rather have no internet than satellite as it currently is. But this is really cool because it will bring competition everywhere. Right. Out in the country where I live now, I have satellite or I have wireless. This would give me satellite, wireless, or Google satellite. I'm curious as to how they will, what their pricing structure will be on this.
And their goal of doing this is not to give you internet access; it's to give South Africa internet access, and the Egypt and places in the Middle Eastern desert. Their goal is to bring bandwidth to those who don't have it. So things like latency and lower bandwidth in terms of high bandwidth are less issues for them because they're looking to target people who don't have any bandwidth at all right now.
Yeah,
right.
Or depending on a rigged together cellular system. So again, Google is putting their money where their mouth is, saying that when people use the web, we win, and it's exciting. I love to see them pushing boundaries. Because of their investment in Google Fiber, offering gigabit to a handful of cities. Other companies, AT&T is now offering it in places, and Verizon says they're going to roll it out. When Google does stuff, they're big enough and they can throw enough weight behind it, they move industries. And so I'm excited about what this is going to mean. Satellite is never going to be useful for real-time communication. This Skype call would never work on satellite. No. The latency is just too huge. You're never going to be able to do video conferencing effectively. I mean, we used to do that all the time. It was the news guys would do coming in via satellite, and then there would be, you'd see that 3-minute break between the time somebody said something and the time the other person heard it and responded back. That used to be the only way to do things. Now we complain about it.
Yeah.
But it just is what it is. When you're sending something 20 miles into space, it takes time for a light to travel that far. So it bees that way.
Yeah, well, and one of the things they mentioned is they're wanting to go into a lower orbit. So I wonder how much that will reduce. I wonder if it will be a big enough difference that it would reduce the latency noticeably. Or if it's just, hey, instead of it being 20 seconds of latency, it's 19. That's not a big deal. But if it cuts it in half or something, then that makes satellite viable for more things.
Well, I would think it would be. I think it would be a lot less because they're not even leaving the atmosphere. So I think your latency would drop down quite considerably since you're not having to go through the atmosphere and back down.
Right, but like I said, I just wonder how much.
When you put this in the context, Seth, of your when we did the history of communication thing, and you pulled out that stat that it took something like 64 minutes for a message to go via telegraph west. Around or maybe it was east. Anyway, whichever direction it was.
It was 12 minutes west and then 10 minutes to go east.
Okay, something like that. So when we complain about 20 seconds of latency, it just goes to show how far we've gone. What are we going to consider laughable in another 100 years?
Right.
Or even 10. You know, with all the push to have gigabit to the to your doorstep, that's in 10 years that could change immensely.
Yeah.
So I know around my neck of the woods, there's a lot of pushing to get. And a lot of it has to do with all the oil in this neck of the woods. That there's a big push to get more broadband available, not just from the two carriers, but to have more carriers come in and to give a higher bandwidth availability. It's just a lot of governmental red tape to get it in here. So I know there's a lot of people are dying to get it. So
all right. Moving on to a follow-up from, I believe it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about a flaw in Linux. Well, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the Linux kernel has been patched. Basically, the one that allowed the CH rootkit that you could scan to test your system for rootkits, there was a vulnerability that if you could get local access, you could gain root access. Anyway, that's been patched. So I thought it was pretty cool because it patched a vulnerability that didn't require root level access to be effective, because it could get root level access. So, but it's fixed now, and the link will be in the show notes, and you can read all the security stuff and details for yourself.
So recently, in the recent past, a couple years ago, Amazon teamed up with Ubuntu, and Ubuntu said that when you do search in Unity, whether you're searching the internet or searching local, we'll throw Amazon store stuff in there. And the neckbeards revolted, and a lot of people ran away from Ubuntu because of it. Well, now Apple's doing it, and their people will probably love it.
Yeah, this is just another example of Apple leading the way, breaking new fields.
By doing what other people have done.
Yes, the same way they invented the genre with the iPod and they created tablets. Now they're creating, local search with Amazon. So I just wanted to, point out this is just, and again, because it's Apple and Apple does no wrong to Apple users, everybody's probably going to love it and going to say, oh, wow, now I don't have to go to Amazon. I can just search for my local machine and get, my latest issue of Apple Smug Monthly or whatever. And so as long as they have, well, you probably can't opt out, because if you had the ability to opt out, then you wouldn't need it, and so Apple wouldn't have put it in there anyway. Yeah. But at least with Ubuntu, you can still opt out.
And so, as the article says, the real issue with this is you don't know when two large entities like that come together. You don't know what they're doing with your data. When you search on Google, there's a terms of service, and you can look at it and you can see what they do. When you search on Amazon, there's a terms of service. But this sort of thing between Apple and Amazon, or whoever it is that they are, and between Ubuntu and Amazon, there's not a terms of service for that. You don't know what they're doing. You have to trust that they have your best interest in mind. And, some brands have earned more trust than others in that regard.
Yeah. I know. Personally, I would.
I'm just curious as to what the hubbub will be about on the internet regarding this. I haven't really heard anything about it one way or another, other than this one article.
All right. So Barnes & Noble gave up the Nook brand. Well, now they're bringing it back in conjunction with Samsung.
Interesting.
Yes, it seemed a while back that they were they announced partnerships, or they announced that they would really love if somebody would come in and make Nooks with them. Please help us not to die kind of announcement. And Samsung is taking it up, and they will produce a co-branded Galaxy Tab for Nook. It'll be a 7-inch tablet. Designed to compete with the Kindle. So, but yeah, it's just, is this enough to make Barnes & Noble a challenger for Amazon? I don't know, but maybe it's enough to keep them not dying.
Well, the only thing that will make this work is if Barnes & Noble has a similar catalog to what's available through the Amazon the Kindle Fire. We all know the Kindle Fire is an entry point to buying. It's a cash register that you can watch movies
on. It's a store, basically.
And so the Nook, there are lots of other tablets that have been as good or better than the Kindle Fire, but they didn't have that synergy with content, with media, with purchasing. And of course, Barnes & Noble is stellar in the book market, and this is going to be a reading focused thing. But if that's all it can do, if they don't have the media capabilities, if you can't dial up a library of several thousand videos to choose from, if you don't have music like on Amazon, this will fail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and one thing about the Kindle can read, even if it's just for books, the Kindle can read so many other formats. I went to a Barnes & Noble, and I played dumb. I just said, hey, I want to buy a Nook, but I don't want to, can it read other formats? Can it read a PDF? And you would have thought I asked, can I give you cancer? He just like, dude, no, why would you want to do that? That's not safe. That's not secure. Only the Nook. And I just like, what about not having a credit card? And it was like, why would you not have a credit card? So it was just, again, I played dumb. I didn't say, look, buddy, I know more about this Nook looking at it than that little seminar you went to last week. But it was just like, it was all I could do, really, not to just laugh in his face when he kind of did the whole PDFs aren't secure and you shouldn't use them, and only the Nook. Anyway, it was just kind of funny.
In a similar vein, I was at I think it was Best Buy some time ago, and I was buying a laptop, and they wanted the optimized. They said, do you want us to optimize this? And I said, I set up and install and configure on average 500 laptops a month. No, I don't need you to optimize this for me. And he had the best response I've ever heard anybody say. He said, well, most people don't. I thought, I can't argue with that. He's right. Most people don't. So, yeah, you were in the most people don't category there at the Nook store.
Right.
It's almost fun to do that, though.
Yeah, I love playing dumb. I'm going to, especially when it comes to computers, just to see whether I'm talking to somebody who knows or just somebody trying to push product. And he was trying to be a product pusher. He didn't know much.
The truth is, I have never averaged 500 a month, but I wanted to make him think I was a big dog. So
right.
It worked.
Yeah. So, moving right along, SSL, OpenSSL, after being relatively lackluster in their security fixes for a while, Heartbleed woke them up, and now they've released 7 new patches.
Wow.
Or a patch for 7 vulnerabilities.
Yes. So, and it's kind of big news, and you can go into all the, buffer overrun things, handshakes, all these other kind of, basically the same kind of leaks and the same kind of vulnerabilities that have been out there. Now they're getting fixed. And, I wonder, is it just some of the core infrastructure initiative thing paying off already? I mean, because, they have to have this big bug list of things that they just haven't got around to yet. Now that money is starting to come in and, the spotlight's being shown, is it just the first fruits that we're seeing this major push already, or, did he take a week off of work so he could, or did he break up with his girlfriend and have some free time now?
Well, you got to know after the whole Heartbleed thing that an audit was begun.
Right.
If this has been there for all these years, what else is there? And so, whether it's the Linux Foundation doing it or just the maintainers of the of the project, but I really think this is just, holy crap, if this has been there all this time, what else is there? And they're finding there's stuff there. Most of this is esoteric. I mean, you got to work to get these things to exploit, but hackers work. They're okay with that.
That's their job.
If it's a rich enough target, they will spend whatever the effort is required.
And one of the things Heartbleed showed is this is a very rich target indeed. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, a lot of the web runs SSL, but whenever you have, every major website out there saying, we're broke now, don't use us, they're like, holy crap, maybe we need to quit writing so much Windows crap and focus on OpenSSL, richer targets.
All right, and the next up, Sony decides to bow out of the portable market. They're not going to sell the PlayStation Portable anymore. I don't think anybody will notice.
No, I don't. They have and then there was one. There's the Nintendo DS. Granted, and the thing is, there's more gaming going on smartphones now than there are on handheld devices. So unless it's really something special, there's really no need to have a little portable gaming system like that. Their time has come and gone. Yeah. And so Sony realizes it, and they have quit selling in North America. They're going to end in Japan later this month and later this year in Europe. So they're just basically trying to get rid of the inventory that's out there.
Yeah, and so I think you nailed it. iPhone and Android have usurped the portable gaming market. I mean, these devices have GPUs now and processors that are powerful enough. You don't need a separate portable gaming device. I mean, you get a 7-inch tablet, and it's amazing what that thing can do. So it's not Sony screwed up. It's just the market went away. It evolved into something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a market, but I don't think it can support two major ones. Because I don't want to give a young kid a phone. But so still maybe a Nintendo DS or something like that. But there's not the demand for it anymore.
All right. Well, not with every child getting a tablet or a phone in their hand.
Right?
Who wants a like my son. He still pulls out the old original Game Boy once in a blue moon that I had when I was a kid. But most of the time, his hands are on the tablet because he has Netflix access. He has his games that he plays. He can stream Plex. So yeah, it's just kind of the all-in-one device for him.
All right, and moving right along, Netflix. Verizon says, Netflix, stop blaming us when we don't do our job.
Yes. Netflix has been in the news a lot. First of all, the whole Comcast thing where they're paying Comcast for access to their customers. Basically, they are posting on websites whenever your video buffers, and this happens on Verizon, you get like this little message up there that says, the network's congested, and again, this is kind of layman's terms, the network's congested, we can't get through to you now. And so the lawyers from Verizon, who of course are paid anyway, so they might as well be doing something, they've sent a cease and desist letter to Netflix. They've also asked the service to provide information, including a list of customers on the Verizon network to whom Netflix delivered the notice or face legal action. So, hey, who did you tell that we sucked? Tell us or we'll sue you. How dare, we're not going to fix the problem. We're going to sue you for pointing out the problem is kind of what it is. Yeah, and it's just, again, their lawyers have to do something anyway, so might as well threaten a lawsuit.
I'm sure you guys heard it because you both listened to the podcast, but the Security Now podcast, maybe 2 weeks ago, they had an ISP owner on there, and he was talking about who should pay for what, and these people who are consuming more than their share. And it just the whole time I was thinking, you guys are charging for the wrong thing. You're charging for bits when bits are an infinite commodity. What you really need to charge for is the amount of taxation, the amount of stress that any one customer puts on your system. And that's what bandwidth is supposed to be. You tier it so that this person uses 3 megabits and this person uses 10 megabits and this person uses 1 megabits, and you charge them for that. The problem is they're not charging right. And so that's what this whole pissing match between Netflix and Verizon is all about. Verizon whines, like they all do, that Netflix is gumming up their works. Well, so what? That's not Netflix's fault. That means that their customers are using their internet connections in the way that they are paying to use their internet connections. If you don't like it, it's not Netflix's problem. It's not even your customer's problem. It's your problem for overselling what you can deliver. You have told, let's say, 1 million people that they can have 10 megabits unlimited, but you can't deliver 10 million megabits. So your problem is that you've oversold your service and you want to blame Netflix for it. You don't want to fix the service. You want to charge for it. You want to get more money. But that doesn't actually fix anything. You're still overselling your service. Nobody's going to take, they're not going to take this money from Netflix and put it in network upgrades. No, they're going to try to punish people so that they'll stop doing it as much. And you're selling the wrong stinking product. Stop overselling. And this goes all the way back to dial-up, guys. That the thing back then was you could oversell by usually 3 to 1. You could sell 3 times as many connections as you have on the assumption that not everybody's going to be using it at once. That world doesn't exist anymore, but we're still selling that model. We're still selling 3, 4, 12, 15 times as much as we actually have in a world where people actually use their connections.
Yeah, and the other side of that, and the thing that, that was a great thing. Anybody who has a question about net neutrality, I would really suggest them go listen to that episode. But, it's like, if I conserve the amount of electricity I use, I shouldn't have to pay the same amount as the guy next door who has a house twice my size and runs, 18 banks of floodlights at night. And that's what the ISP is trying to do. They're trying to say everybody needs to pay the same thing, and this guy who has a 1-bedroom shack with 1 light bulb should have to pay the same as the guy with the 25-room mansion.
And that's what the unlimited model gets you. It personally wouldn't bother me if they went with a pay-per-bit model. Give me a meter just like the electric company does, just like the water company does, just like the gas company does. Give me a meter that measures in something that I can see, not a black box. I need a dial that I can walk out and look at. I need to see how many bits I'm using, and charge me a certain fraction of a penny per bit. Then you're selling the right product.
That's right. That is, I would love to see that. You pay something like $10 to connect, and then that gets you like 1 gig, and then something per X from there on out. That would be awesome, and that would fix it. Because if people wanted to torrent, 28 ISOs a day, it's going to cost them more money. And if I just jump on for 5 minutes to check my email and check Facebook and then get off, it's not going to cost me as much. And then it's up to me but again, there has to be some number that I can see. I've used this much data. I've used this much data. And then it's up to me to regulate how I connect.
The cell phone companies kind of do that. They kind of sell bits, but not really. They still want to have 1 foot in the unlimited. And so they give you this pool of bits that they assure you is more than you'll ever use. And the problem is, because they're trying to straddle the fence between unlimited and pay per bit, their charge per bit is ridiculous. And so that's what's going to happen. If ISPs start charging per bit, they're going to make less money. So this grandma who's now paying $50 a month for 10 megs because it came bundled with her television service, but never uses it, suddenly her rates are going to go down. And the ISPs know this. They know they'll lose money if they actually start charging people for what they use. So they want to charge people a flat rate and then punish those who use, quote-unquote, more than their fair share. They can't have it both ways.
Yeah. See, I've always liked the model of you pay for the pipe. I think it should be pipe like...
They've got the lawyers, though, to say they can. And the lawyers are getting paid anyway, so they might as well try,
Yeah, and Chris, the pay per the pipe model works, and But the thing is, they're not
paying for the pipe. It's not a direct connection.
Yeah.
It's a shared connection, and that's where the pipe model breaks.
So you're selling the pipe, but designing your infrastructure for bits. So you're selling one thing and buying another, and that's the problem.
If they went to you buy the pipe, like when you go to the hardware store and you buy, you need 10 feet of pipe, and you bought 10 feet of pipe, well, you could meter your house, find out what's your usage, and buy the size of pipe you need for your usage. And I've always liked that model the best because, like my mom, all she needs is enough bandwidth to watch one movie. She has one TV in her house that does Netflix, and that's the only thing that really does any heavy load. But because of the model that we're at, she's got to pay for a 15 meg connection in order to stream Netflix, because anything lower and her stream can't handle the Netflix load. And if Netflix goes to 4K like they're talking, or the ability to go to 4K, then she's going to have to upgrade again. But because there's no model for her to say, I want enough of a big enough pipe to my house to cover this stream. And it's just a rough place.
And it can't last. This we're going to look back on this, and this is the Wild West days. We'll look at it in the same way we looked at dial-up modems. If you tried to connect your DSL and got a busy signal, that would be ridiculous. But back in the day, you just accepted that and you hung up and redialed. So this garbage that we're accepting isn't going to stand for long. The economic model won't allow it. But right now, it ticks me off because these companies are selling one thing, buying another, and then punishing the people who actually want the service they paid for. And why the heck does Netflix need to get charged anything for this? They're already paying for their connection. They're already paying for their servers. They have a CDN. They're paying for it. Why on earth does this guy who was on the Security Now podcast think it's a good idea to charge Netflix because I'm a subscriber? That's entirely the wrong person to charge.
But he made a point that I didn't know, that Netflix isn't really, one of the things of the internet is you are supposed to be cacheable, and their service, they prevent caching. So he doesn't have the option to set up a gateway server and cache the Netflix stream to alleviate his demand. So if Netflix is going to be non-compliant in the way they do things, if you're going to do something in a non-compliant way, then you should pay more, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, but I'm pretty
non-compliant way.
But I'm pretty sure. But they are paying for that, right? Because they have to have the server bandwidth to stream that out every time somebody asks for it. When for every viewer of Orphan Black, they're streaming those bits. Sure, I bet they would like to have it cached because it saves them bits. If you don't go back to their server, they can have less. But the Hollywood guys who are afraid of having anything copied wouldn't allow that. But again, your argument doesn't stand up, Seth, because they're already paying for it. Whether it's standard or not, they're already paying for every bit they stream. And if you watch Orphan Black and I watch Orphan Black at the same time, they're paying for two streams out. Right. Caching would do them a favor. So I can't imagine that they're non-standard because they want to be.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'll go with that too. But I guess the better question is why? I mean, obviously, we all know the answer why Netflix doesn't allow us to cache. But I guess if like the show today, we're technically caching our local media to a server. I mean, when you look at it that way, so why can't Netflix do it? I don't understand.
Because we're technically felons when we do it. Every time you and I rip a DVD, we commit a felony.
Right, but we're also allowed one digital backup of our physical media.
Yes, but we can't break the encryption to get it. Welcome to the U.S.
Exactly, which is an old law that needs to be looked at again.
You're legally allowed to have a copy, but you're not legally allowed to make a copy.
Yeah, exactly my point. I think it's an old law that needs to be readdressed. But there's a lot of those, and the government doesn't really move quickly.
I just get mad when things are stupid, and lots of people buy into the stupidity. And this is, this is why I get mad at government, because it's stupid. But that's where this whole net neutrality argument is based on stupidity. It's not even ignorance. You can't even blame the lawmakers for being ignorant on this one. They're just being dumb. They wouldn't accept this with any other if Ford tried to charge a surcharge for
every mile,
but every mile you drive, or because if your family owns 2 Fords instead of 1, you got to pay us extra every month. Nobody would stand for that. But that's exactly what's happening in the television / cable / telephone market, and
movie.
Yeah, and it's just dumb. End of the story. You know what's not dumb? How about 500 games for Linux now on Steam?
Yes, they have surpassed the 500 mark of Linux games for Steam. The actual name of the let me see, Igmatics: The Mist of Ravenwood, which is a hidden object game, and that genre seems to be pretty popular now. So, and their best-selling game on Steam for Linux is currently Rust. So, 500 in less than 2 years, that's not bad. Again, we are missing some of the first-run titles, but again, I think that is just something that will be addressed as Steam gets more traction. And the more games that are there, the more people will use it. The more people that will use it, the more developers it will attract. The more developers it will attract, the bigger the games they'll be able to pull. So it's one of those groundswell things that I think will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just hope that and I don't know if this is just me being picky, but I don't consider a Linux a game Linux native if it's just got a fancy wrapper around it, and it's just the Windows
It's just
API.
wine by another name.
Yeah, and there's a few of those. The Witcher is one that I've been listening. There's another gaming podcast that they came up on, and they just pounded that game to pieces because of the fact that it's just a pretty it's just a pretty wine wrapper around the Windows API. And so it performs in their test interfaces, in their test beds, it was really poor performer. I would rather see a game take an extra 6 months to get released if it was native than to just wrap it around something. So just my 2 cents.
You may prefer that, but the market in general doesn't. First to market wins.
Right, but that would give pressure to get, if they want the Linux dollar, that gives them pressure to get it done, and as a single. But a lot of these games, they get kicked back 3-6 months all the time. I don't remember the last game I was waiting for, but it had 4 release. It was kicked back 4 times, saying that it's not ready yet. It's still in the hopper. So how is that any different, saying it's still in the hopper for 4 different kickbacks for a Windows release? How is that any different than saying, oh, it's not ready yet, we're going to kick it another couple of weeks for the Linux to get catch up, so it's a simultaneous release over all platforms? And I've also seen a number of games, Borderlands in particular, where it was not released simultaneously. It came out in a stutter. The consoles came out, and then the computer version came out just after it, a week. I think it was a week later, the original one. But that's something gamers are used to seeing. They're used to kickback time. They're used to seeing delays because of something showed up at the end. So honestly, I think the gamer market wouldn't crucify game manufacturers for a delayed Steam release.
Well, but then since Wine will already do a lot of things for Windows, what's to stop somebody from just getting the Windows game and trying it through Wine, or just play it in Windows? And so then you're crushing the need for Steam, because the casual gamer really won't care whether it's Windows or Linux. They want it out. And,
Right.
I got this Linux machine, so if I'm going to have to wait that much longer, then why bother? So, I mean, they're going to catch flack whichever way they choose. So Wine is like a good compromise for them.
But it should be just a Band-Aid, though. It shouldn't be a permanent, in my opinion. Wine is a Band-Aid that should be ripped off eventually, and it should be that if going down that path, Seth, that if Wine is a wrapper for release time, I wouldn't see a problem with a wrapper for release date to get the release date on time. But there should still be a native code for a game then if I'm buying it. Because I'm buying it to play it on my system as it sits, not to play in an emulated system. It just so happens I have to play an emulated system.
Right, but again, you're not the major demographic there.
I know, I'm an edge case, and I've been told that about 17 times in the last 2 days. So
I thought they said you were a head case. I misunderstood.
Well, that was said twice. So
okay. Hey, you remember DEC computers? No, you remember Compaq computers?
Yeah.
No. Well, at some point, those two merged into a company that nobody remembers anymore.
No, this was a humongous deal when it happened this week in history. June the 11th, 1998. I remember this one because I was a DEC fan at the time, and I thought it was. I didn't like it when it happened, but Compaq Computer paid $9 billion for Digital Equipment Corporation, which is side bit of trivia. DEC was the first company to release a portable disc-based MP3 player. It just didn't do so well. Apple was the first one to release a successful, commercially profitable model, but DEC beat them to the punch, which, they were bought by Compaq. Compaq was later absorbed by HP, so HP kind of gets credit for that today. But yes, that's $9 billion, $1998. You hear about all these humongous deals like Facebook paid $1 gazillion to pick lint out of somebody's pocket or something not too long ago. But $9 billion in 1998, that was a lot of money. It's still not chump change today, but that was even more money back then. At the time, that was the largest pay for high-tech acquisition.
You finished up before I had a chance. I was going to look up. I'm on a currency converter right now. I want to find out how much 9 billion actually was, but I couldn't do it. I wanted to convert it to today's money, but I'll leave that as an exercise to the listener.
it was a lot. The number would break most calculators.
Okay, so now it's time to bring on our guest who's been quietly waiting all this time in a digitally pre-recorded interview, Mr. Elan Feingold of Plex. Put interview here. And now, end of show goes here. All right.
It would be over $13 billion today, just under 13.1.
I'll try to edit that in there.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
It's okay.
I was too busy doing the inflation calculator.
All right, and so thanks, Elan, for being with us, and we appreciate it. Hope to have him back. He was entertaining and intelligent, and the project is just amazing. I mean, I think we gushed enough about it during the interview. We don't need to gush anymore, but it's one of those things that few projects excite me in the way that this has. In that it does what it does so very well, and it's completely affordable. I mean, you could do the whole thing for free if you just wanted to use the web app. It wouldn't cost you a dime, and that's how I tried it out for the first couple of months. I browsed the web app, the server thing on my iPad and on my tablets, and I set up the firewalling and stuff in my house to do it. If you're willing to do the work, it's great at no cost, but you get some added benefits to buying the app or becoming a premium. Plus, you make sure the project continues by paying for it. So I encourage you first to try it, and I encourage you to continue to pay for it if you like it.
There you go.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the part of the show where I tell you how to contact us, because, hey, maybe this is your first time listening, and you don't know that if you want to be part of the listener feedback section of the show, which we didn't do this week, or if you want to tell us your experiences with Plex or how you feel about Netflix and Verizon, you can do all those things by going to elementop.com, clicking the Contact Us button at the top of the page, or if you just want to send an email directly, that's edl@everydaylinux.com, at elementop.com, edl@elementop.com. Or if you want to be on the show in your own sweet tones, you can do that by dialing 559-IMOP anywhere in North America, and we will leave your voicemail with Google, and we will put you on the show. So there is enough about that, and so now it's time for Dev/Random. Chris, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I noticed that Seth had 2 links today, so I'm going to have 2 links too. But my first link is just a rehash from last week, because we had the Fitch Foundation with the big skate park that we're doing. There was a huge announcement that we had on Wednesday on our release date, and I was not able to get clearance to talk about it during the show. So I'm going to talk about it now because it was awesome. If you know who Jeff Ament is, he is the bassist for Pearl Jam. And he donated a $40,000 skate bowl to the park. Just off of whim. We didn't approach him. It just was like, oh, look, we're trying to get a skate park. And he contacted us and donated. So it's an awesome thing. He designed it himself. There's a team of builders that are already here building the park. And they already, they've dealt with him before. And so they just went, oh, yep, we'll take care of it. And away they go. So we're going to have 3 sections of a park and it was only originally spec'd for 2. So this is an awesome big secret that we weren't expecting, and then it just kind of happened. And on a funny note to go with it, I was on Twitter, and I thanked Jeff Ament or whatever, and I didn't know he had a foundation of his fans, and they contacted us now too, and they're going to help with whatever they can for the park as well. So this is a huge, all of a sudden things are kind of falling into place, and so we still need more donations for the skate park, but it's going to become one monstrous park that is going to be a beautiful thing when it's done. But now on to my second link. I found this the other day, just dinking around through the Play Store. I am rooted deeply into my Google Calendar. Anyone that has kids and has a very list-focused wife, you're going to be rooted in your calendar as well. And then, but the Google Calendar always seemed to be it worked, but it was a little wonky. And I ran across this one called Sunrise. And I don't know if anyone else has ever seen this thing on the mobile, but it is a just beautiful calendar app that you can link not just your Google account into, but your Facebook, LinkedIn, and a handful more of other apps. I think Foursquare goes in there. You can do Exchange. Well, Exchange is coming, but there's a ton of different other plugins you can plug into this calendar, so you can keep track of everything all in one place. Not only is it a mobile app, but there's also a desktop client that just is a nice thing to deal with. So if you're a heavy calendar user like I am, take a look at Sunrise. First of all, it's free, so there's no hurting if you don't like it. But I really like it, so take a look at sunrise.am for the website, or Sunrise in any store near you.
So I'm just looking at it here on the page, and I don't see anything special about it on the web. You say it comes alive on the mobile primarily?
The mobile is where I really noticed a big difference. And like I said, I think there's 30 calendar accounts in here that I have tracking. So when you have 30 different calendars that you're tracking, it gets messy in the Google Calendar. And this one kind of makes it a little more elegant and easy to see. And I'm sure our lovely guys listening are not going to care, but I'm going to hold it up so the other guys can see it. I don't know if you can see the screen here, but it's a nice, elegant view of my phone with, well, that just kind of showed a payroll day, but it highlights the day on the top and then has a task list underneath it. So you get the benefit of a task list and the calendar as well, view as well.
Okay.
So it's something to look at, and it changes the view a little bit. So when you're looking at it, you can tinker the view a little bit, but I really like it. And I don't know if it's a feature of the app or something about my new phone, but I noticed today, you know how normally you have to snooze your phone or put it into sleep mode or put it in a vibrate only mode. It did it for me. I didn't have to do it today.
Because it knew you had an event?
I was in a meeting, yeah. So I don't know if that's part of the app or if it's just my phone doing it because it knows that I have a calendar event right now. But for free, it's worth it. I like the widget a little bit better than the Google widget. It has a little bit more transparency. But yeah, take a look at it. I really like it.
So I'm looking at my calendar on Sunrise as I'm looking at it, and I notice, I don't know why this is there, but August 1st I have an event that says cancel Dish Network account. I don't know why I put that there or what I was thinking, but apparently on August 1st, my plan at some point was to cancel my Dish Network account. Go figure.
Maybe you said it recurring, and
I checked that. It wasn't there last year. I checked that because that's what I was thinking, but I have no idea. I'm not mad at Dish Network, but apparently at some point I was, and I gave them a deadline, and I just didn't. I didn't use the note function, and I don't know why.
Maybe you entered it wrong you have since corrected it, but you never realized it. So at some August 1st year past, you just chose the wrong year.
Yeah,
sure.
Possible.
All right, Seth. What you have some historically relevant things, and I have some comments on that. But I'll let you go first. What are your links this week?
Well, this is I put two in there in honor of D-Day, the 6th of June, whenever the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy and opened up opened up a second front in the war. One thing I wanted to just say in passing is that there seems to be in the Western Europe, especially in America, a glossing over of the contribution the Russians played in the war. You know, and I'm not saying that taking the beaches were easy by any means. You know, I wasn't there and I haven't been a soldier, but part of the reason that it was made possible was the Eastern Front, where the Russians were advancing on the Germans, and then Russia totally discounts everything that the Allies did in the West, saying, oh, another front was open, is pretty much all the coverage that they give to it. Part of the reason they were able to advance was Germany's preparation to defend their western seaboard against the Ally attack. But December 6, 1944, D-Day was launched, and this one site, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, opened a Twitter feed, and they did it's 70 years later, but they did like a timeline as if the reporter was embedded with the unit, tweeting out what they were doing and when they were doing it. And I thought it was kind of cool. And, you know, because of the difference in time zones, I was watching this kind of real time throughout the day, and it was pretty neat just to see the troops, just to see the accounts pop up. So one of the links is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's D-Day Live, and the other is a series of pictures, D-Day Then and Now.
Haunting.
Yes, very haunting pictures. It shows it shows a photograph from D-Day, and then it takes that same picture today. Like the first one, there's this group of soldiers walking, and in the next one, there's just tourists on the beach. You know, Eisenhower is talking to guys, and then it's an abandoned field. Landing craft, people coming out of it. In the next, you know, these little surfboard things. It's kind of you know, it's just wow. You look at it, creepy. Some of the buildings, you know, you can see the exact same building in there, but you know, one is death and destruction, and the other is people just laying around the beach.
But you know, I don't want to gloss over the fact that this is what those young men killed and died for.
Right.
They wanted 70 years later for people to be suntanning on this beach instead of dying on it. I mean, that was the whole reason they did this. And so it's easy to fall into cheapening this and saying, you know, we've squandered their sacrifice. But no, that's exactly what their sacrifice was for. I've said it before. I think it's perfectly appropriate to have a barbecue on Memorial Day because you're remembering what those people died so that you could be able to do. You know, and if Hitler had his way, would the beaches at Normandy be a tourist attraction today? I don't know. But those young men killed and died so that 6 generations probably later, that sacrifice would be a distant memory. So it's appropriate to remember, but it's also appropriate to move forward.
Yeah. So and you know, and that's you know, I love history, and little things like this that kind of make it real I think they're really cool. And to me, this is one of the things the internet was designed for.
Yeah.
You can see, I mean, I wasn't there, you know, I've never experienced war, but you can kind of see, at least in some way, what it was like. Even though I've never been to Normandy, I can look at these places and go, wow.
Yeah, I mean, in case you don't know, if you're too young or don't know, June 6, 1944 was the day the Allied forces landed en masse in Europe, and you know, and really broke the back of the Axis powers at the time. And so 70 years later, we like round numbers, and that's why it's been a big deal. I can't remember the website. I wish I did now. But there was a display of photos much like this, only instead of back to back, they were interposed. So there would be a group of people at a fountain in modern dress, and behind them the black and white superimposition of a tank on that same space.
That was I did that. It's been many months ago, but that was one of my links.
And so it's sobering when you think that. The world we live in today, where we complain about slap fights between Verizon and Netflix, that was bought at a great price, and not just American lives. Every country. That's why it's called a world war. Everybody suffered in that generation. That entire generation of people suffered, and really they're the last ones to do so en masse like that. I mean, there have been battles, there have been wars, but it's the last time that a world banded together. Or you know, in such a way. I mean, you could say the Axis powers banded together as well. There were two sides, and it didn't matter where you were. You were on one of those two sides.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that. And it would be great if we never see that again. That's not a bad thing. But let's also not forget what that where we are today was bought at a great price.
Amen.
Couldn't say it any better myself, Mark. You pretty much took every word out of my mouth.
I'm a patriot, and so naturally I think America is the greatest place on the face of the planet. But I don't want to undermine the French and the Canadians and the New Zealanders and the Japanese and the Chinese. That everybody, even if even like the Japanese, we weren't on the same side in that war, but we fought for the same reasons.
Yep.
And I respect that. I respectfully disagree. I think their reasons were wrong and our reasons were right. But I have the luxury of looking back as a member of the victor nation to think that. And I certainly don't want to undermine the fact that they struggled and fought and sacrificed for what they believed in, in the same way that my grandfather did, and they are both worthy of honor.
Yeah, and especially it seems like today it's almost like the Cold War is happening again between Russia and the West. Again, we don't even we talk about the Eastern Front, but you have to realize how much of Germany was given to halt the Russian advance. That made the landing even possible, and and Russia needs to realize how much of Germany was preparing the Western Wall to make their advance possible. I'm not saying either one was easy. Russia has, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dead brothers, uncles, fathers, cousins to prove that it wasn't easy. But again, both the East and the West need to realize that it took the others' sacrifice to make their sacrifice possible. And so, again, we'll cover that more fully on a future Politics Today episode, I think.
I'm currently reading, quote unquote, listening to an audiobook called Brothers in Battle, Best of Friends, and it's two of the guys from Easy Company, the paratroopers that the movie, the miniseries Band of Brothers was about, and it was a featured thing on that day on June 6th, and I snapped it up. And I'm only in like chapter 2, and there've already been a couple of times that I've been in tears listening to these guys talk about what chokes me up about it is not the horror of battle, but the matter-of-factness with which they simply said, this must be done. I'm doing this because I have to. And I don't have any frame of reference for that. I'm a fat, comfortable, chauvinistic American. I have the luxury of never having come to a situation and said, this may take my life, but I have to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I think we have lost something as a culture of humans, because we're losing that generation, and humanity is losing part of its soul. Not to get too rhapsodic there, but I really think that we need to be mining these people, and that's what this book is. It's interviews with these two guys when they were in their 70s or 80s, and we need to be mining this treasure trove of humanity while we can. Because
before it's gone,
they're quickly fading. I mean, if you were 18 in 1944, you're 91, if my math is right, today. So they're going away quickly.
Well, and I think I saw somewhere that one of the last code speakers passed away.
Yes, the last original one. Yeah. There was a group that actually developed the code, and he was the last of those. And that happened this past week.
Yeah, that shocked me. I mean, I remember hearing stories of that. So,
okay, enough about that. I think we should just set aside a show maybe on a holiday, and just leave all the Linux out of it, and talk about some of our favorite stuff in history, because we're all three buffs about that, and I think our audience is as well. And just treat it not from an American point of view, but from a global point of view. That'll be something we can do. So anyway,
or even bring people in to do too. That would be fun.
Yeah. This show is rapidly approaching miniseries status, so I want to bring it to an end and say, guys, thanks for being with us. Alon, you've already gone, but I thank also you for giving us your time to be interviewed. Chris, Seth, you're awesome as always, and may your plate always have bacon on it. And I'm going to say,
I hope so.
For now, that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
Bye.
See ya.
Oh, this is going to be lots of editing, but that's all right. It's what I live for.
There you go. Oh, well, with that, guys, I'm going to go run away because, let me know when we're free.
Oh, okay. So, good night, live viewers. Chris has something to say off the record.
Yes.